Today was absolute fire when it comes down to Helldivers 2, as Arrowhead jebaited the community into thinking the patch was probably not going to make it into the game this week, and we were looking more like next week, all the while ready to drop one of the biggest updates and reworks on the game we've ever seen. Now, I've got everything here you'll need to get a sense of what went down today, along with my final thoughts and input as well. Remember to hit subscribe and to hit that notification bell to receive my latest upload alerts, because it's now time to dive into the madness of Update 4.1.0. Alright, there's a metric crap ton of changes baked into today's surprise update, which for me on PC was 2.6 gigs, and Update 4.1.0 has everything from weapon balance changes to enemy buffs and nerfs, by the way, and over 200 bug fixes. So yeah, in the interest of time and trying to keep this video as short as possible, let's just dive right in. Starting off with the primary weapon changes, and there are nothing but buffs here, which when we get to the enemy changes, you'll get a better understanding why. Let's kick things off with the two shotgun changes, starting with the Punisher Plasma, one of my personal favorites in the game. The projectile damage has been decreased by 100%. It's gone from 100 down to 0, but let's be honest, the projectile damage didn't do anything in the past. It was a useless stat. What was important was the explosion damage, which has picked up another 75, so it's gone from 150 to 225. Now, I tried it out and tested it extensively versus the bugs this morning. I recommend you give this thing a try because it is absolutely slapping right now. Next up is the Slugger. It picked up 50 base damage and it picked up 15 durable damage. However, I think I overheard on the dev vlog that also posted this morning, I'll include links to all of this, by the way, down in the video description, that they said, and it's not listed here, that the Slugger picked up drag. Yeah, you're going to hear drag quite a bit here in the primary weapon changes. Drag is damage drop off based on distance, so it's not going to reach out and touch targets for optimal damage at extreme ranges. Next is the Liberator. It picks up 10 base damage and it picks up 7 durable damage. You're going to hear that a lot with the light armor pen assault rifles. The Lib Carbine picked up 10 base damage, picked up 7 durable damage. The Lib Penetrator, a medium armor pen weapon, picked up 5 base damage. Liberator Concussive picked up 10 base damage and 5 durable damage. The Tenderizer picked up 8 durable damage, no base damage because that was already quite high. The Pacifier, the MAP weapon from the Force of Law Warbond, it's going to pick up 5 base damage and it picked up 0.5 on the stun value per projectile. Next up are the SMGs, and remember when I said you're going to hear drag quite a bit? Well, it's been heavily applied to this weapon archetype, which I'll try to explain to you in a moment. The Defender is the first weapon here. It picked up 20 base damage. It also picked up 10 durable damage, both sizable gains, and it also had its drag increase from 0.6 to 1.2. Drag is weapon damage drop off over distance. So they're trying to limit the SMGs to do quite a bit of damage in close, as a CQC weapon would, but as soon as you exceed a certain range, you're going to lose a lot of potential damage per round. For instance, as you can hear next here in the night, damage has been buffed by 20, durable damage buffed by 11, and it's had its drag doubled. All right, the Reprimand, which is kind of an odd inclusion here, seeing as how it's a medium armor pen SMG, which is essentially a short barrel AR, but it's picked up 10 base damage, but it also received that doubling of drag. So the further you try to shoot targets, the less damage you're going to do to them. The Pummeler picked up 15 base damage. It picked up 11 durable damage. It also picked up another 0.5 on stun value per projectile, and it also saw a doubling of drag. And in this final grouping here, it looks like Arrowhead starts jumping around between the different archetypes. The Sickle picked up 5 base damage, and it also picked up 1 durable damage, which is nothing. The ODST assault rifle, the MA5C, picked up 10 base damage. No customization here, no changes to durable damage because, of course, it's a medium armor pen weapon. Next up is the M7S SMG, of course, the ODST SMG with a suppressor. It picked up 10 base damage, it picked up 9 durable damage, and it doubled its drag. The STA-11 SMG, kind of surprised to see this one. This is the Killzone SMG. Picked up 20 base damage, it picked up 11 durable damage, and it also received that doubling of drag. Also, the PLAS-39 accelerator rifle. Extra spare mags have been added to this from 8 up to 12, so you picked up 4 mags. Ergonomics, though, were also increased from 40 to 60. This was another weapon that they specifically talked about on this dev vlog, that I believe there's some sort of branding or franchising restrictions that are placed on this based on the Killzone franchise, and they wanted to stay as true as possible to what the accelerator rifle was in that game. So they're unable to change the amount of ammo per mag, but they gave you 4 more mags, and they bumped up the ergo from 40 to 60 to make all the weapon handling just that little more snappy. And also the PLAS-1 Scorcher, plasma projectiles will now pass through foliage without losing velocity. Next, we're over into the sidearm changes. This will also encompass melee, and they've made 3 melee changes here. First, to the Saber, it picks up 15 base damage. It's also seen more durable damage, so it goes from 55 up to 65. The Combat Hatchet got a bunch of buffs, 50 base damage, 25 durable damage, but it's also had its attack speed slightly reduced. The dev said that was due to the weight of this weapon. And also the Machete. Damage increased by 30, durable damage increased by 20. Next, over into the sidearms themselves, Peacemaker. Your starting pistol picks up 10 base damage, 5 durable damage, and that doubling of drag. The Redeemer is next, picks up 10 base damage, 7 durable damage, doubling of the drag. The Verdict picks up 10 base damage, doubles its drag. The M6C SOCOM picked up 10 base damage, also sees that doubling of the drag. However, the Warrant is kind of the outlier here. This was the Force of Law sidearm. Drag decreased from 0.3 to 0, so it has no damage to distance drop off. Gravity multiplier decreased from 1 down to 0.3. Next up are the throwables, and there's some pretty sizable changes here. Starting off with the Dynamite, it's been buffed by 300 base damage. It's also seen its armor pen value jumped up from medium to heavy. Demo strength gained another 10 from 30 to 40. Stagger strength, another 10, 30 to 40, but you also see decreased uses from 4 down to 3. How about the Pineapple? This was the Dust Devils grenade that nobody really liked. Shrapnel for main explosions has been increased from 7 to 18. Demo strength of the main explosion picks up 10. Inner radius on shrapnel explosion increased from 1 to 2.5 meters. Damage on the shrapnel increased from 70 to 100. Removed lifetime on the shrapnel. Shrapnel from the shrapnel explosion decreased from 6 down to 0. How about the Seeker nades? Definitely some changes here. Higher priority for flying enemies, highest target priority for marked targets, and you also picked up 100 base damage from 400 to 500. The frag grenade, we picked up 1 from 5 to 6. The smoke grenades, we picked up 1 from 4 to 5. And throwing knives, picked up 50 base damage, and they also picked up 50 durable damage. So the knives are certainly going to put in a little more work than they used to. Of course, we can't forget those all-important stratagem weapons, and for those of you out there that like to rock the Catastrophe Cannon, aka the PLAS 45 Epoch, listen up. First off, you're going to pick up another 0.25 seconds of duration until the weapon explodes in your hands. It used to be 3 seconds, now it's 3.25 seconds. They also delayed the muzzle charge visual effects by another ½ second, so it now appears when the projectile is overcharged, improving visibility of the charge state. Damage on standard projectiles explosion has been increased by a whopping 100 from 400 to 500, and your demo strength on overcharged projectiles has been increased from 10 to 30. 30. They mentioned this weapon specifically on the dev log, so now in an overcharged shot, you can open up those bunker doors. How about the Stalwart? Well, it's a light armor pin weapon, damage increased from 80 to 90, and its durable damage has been buffed by 7, from 15 up to 22. The Flamethrower, which I tried out this morning, canister capacity has been buffed by 20. Starting canisters increased by 1, and max spare canisters also has been increased by 1. How about the anti-material rifle, the AMR? Durable damage has been buffed by 45. Starting mags increased by 1. Spare mags, or max spare mags, has been buffed by 2. The autocannon. Yeah, this is the actual autocannon rifle. The weapon they said they would never ever touch. Well, it's picked up 65 base damage. How about the de-escalator? It was so powerful when it came out, then they went in and found the bug with the status effects that was multiplying over the party members, and then it was just absolutely nerfed into the ground. Well, it's been buffed back a little bit here. Damage increased from 55 to 100. Durable damage has picked up 15, from 55 up to 70. Here's a big one here, the Solo Silo. The health of this thing has been increased from 800 to 1500, so it just doesn't die with a puff of wind. Enemies are said to not attack it now, and it also has increased demo strength needed to destroy it. Now, they said that if you throw enough nades at it and hit it with enough ordnance, you can blow it up yourselves, but the point that the enemies aren't just charging at it first thing, that's definitely going to be helpful. The Orbital Rail Cannon Strike has seen its cooldown decreased by 30 seconds. That's before all of the ship upgrades. And the Patriot Exosuit. Hey, all you mech users out there, listen to this one. Missile armor penetration on worse angles has been increased. So it used to be 6640, the 4 being the odd angle hit on whatever target you were shooting at. It's been buffed up to 665. So you picked up another point in armor penetration for those odd angle shots on armored targets. And the rotary gun, or the Gatling gun as I call it, has picked up 350 rounds. So it goes from 1,000 up to 1,350. I know that so many of you community members out there participated in these most hated enemy discussions for Helldivers 2, and I know that many of these are focused in over on the Illuminates. Well, Arrowhead has taken in most of your feedback into account and made some wholesale changes here, starting off with the flesh mobs. Listen to these. There's 2 buffs and 2 nerfs. Targeting the faces deals extra damage to its main health, effectively creating weak spots. So when you see the glowing eyes on its front and back, shoot at those. It's also lost 1,000 points of main health, from 6k down to 5k. However, most health zones are slightly more durable and also slightly less vulnerable to fire to balance health decrease. So it lost health. It gave you effectively some weak spots to shoot at, but it also picked up a little bit more durability, and it's slightly less vulnerable to fire. So keep that in mind. How about the Elevated Overseer? I know that's a close second to the flesh mobs. Main health decreased by 150 points. However, its head health has been increased by 50 points, from 150 up to 200. The head zone armor has lost a point, from 3 down to 2, so now it's down to light armor. Torso health has also lost 150 points. Armor on the arms has also lost 50 points, and a slight increase on how easy it is to set on fire. So this is the inverse of the flesh mob. And finally, the Levs, aka the Flying Whales. Well, they have 2 massive changes here. First off, they've been switched over to beam-based weaponry. So think what you see with the eyes that protect the spawn ships, or how about the walkers? Yeah, the Levs now have those on their wings instead of the weapons they had before. Also, Leviathans will not show up in missions outside of cities. So 2 massive changes there to the Leviathans. Next up, for all my bug divers out there, we've got wholesale changes for the Termind, starting off with the Rupture strain. Check these out. First off, they've updated the texture models for all the Rupture strain enemies, because they always looked kind of low poly when they were first introduced, if you know what I'm saying. Rupture warriors, their movement speed underground has been decreased. They now need to surface more often when they're underground, almost like a dolphin. They've got to come up for air, and then they can burrow down and make another advance. Its burrow attack is now slightly slower and leaves more space to be dodged. For those of you that used to host those sessions when the Rupture warriors would come up out of ground, you know what those burrow attacks were like. Now they're slightly slowed down. They also have smaller damage boxes when attacking from below. The devs talked about this, that the damage boxes were way too generous for these Rupture warriors. So even if you were diving or if you were attempting to jetpack or something out of the way, they could still contact you and do hella damage. Those have been reduced. Front leg armor also decreased from 3 to 2. That's going to take you from medium to light, and will prefer to emerge before attacking turrets instead of destroying them from below ground. That was a massive issue with these things. They would just stay underground indefinitely. They would roll up underneath your turrets and blow them up. Well, now they're said to come up within 5 meters of your turret, even though it doesn't say it here. I listened to the dev log, and therefore it gives your turret at least a little bit of a fighting chance to try and shoot a few shots before it's destroyed. Rupture spewers have received a retune of their timing for how fast they can come up out of the ground and start shooting those spew balls at you. Bile spewers, all of them, all the variants, have seen an increased size of their mouth weak spot. This was always an issue. You had to be ultra precise and hit that little itty bitty mouth protected by all that armor. Well, now it's much more generous, and if you start shooting for the mouth now on these Bile spewers, you're going to do hella damage. Trust me, you're going to enjoy that. Brood commanders, however, are slightly harder to set on fire. Warriors are also slightly harder to set on fire, and they have a slight durable increase in their heads and bodies. So keep that in mind. Also, the Dragon Roach spawn rates have been decreased basically across the board. 50% less spawns on difficulty 5 and 6, 40% less on 7, 8, 9, and 33% less on difficulty 10. Also, the destruction of the wings results in instant termination of the dragon. That was a big problem, right? You could shoot the wings to the point that they should not be able to fly, and they still would. Well, now you can shoot off the wings and kill them. Wings now have their own health pool of 4,000, and they increased how much damage wings take from explosions. Also down here, Bile spewers, slightly harder to set on fire. Larger body parts are slightly more durable. Let me say that again. They picked up durability on their larger body parts. Also, the Hive Lord is down here, improved performance during Hive Lord encounters. And finally down here, the bots. How about those automaton changes? Well, first off, base alarming. Those dudes firing up the flares at the drop of a hat. Well, they've tuned that. So now that the automaton troopers and bases will require better visual confirmation before calling in reinforcements instead of them just calling them in immediately. That's a good change. Devastators, slightly harder to put on fire. Large body parts are slightly more durable. You're starting to see a theme here, right? Command bunker turrets, they removed the ragdolling from its projectiles explosion. Big W there. Factory Striders, slightly less vulnerable to fire. And finally, 4 changes to the Warstriders. It now shoots 2 fewer grenades per salvo. It shoots grenades less often. They removed the ragdolling from its projectile explosions, so those cringe turrets just aren't splattering you all over the place with no hope of standing up on your feet and fighting back. And they added weak spots for you to aim for on the front of it. There's eyes and a vent also on the back. And finally, the Scout Striders, armored top shields are now more durable. And finally, there's a bunch of fixes here for stratagems, crashes, weapons, and overall miscellaneous fixes that would take me another full hour or more to go through. So I won't, but I do want to highlight a few, like we can now call down stratagems while in the caves taking on those nuke nursery missions. That's a W right there, along with more landing on cave roof issues handled here as well. You can now stay aiming down your sights while using the hover pack. Another W there. The melee weapons now read correctly as medium armor pen in your armory. The spear can now lock on to AA targets. Huge W there. They reduced the chances of the extraction shuttle falling down through the ground, making it so you can't get inside, along with all the other general optimization changes we covered in yesterday's video. And again, if you want to see that video where I broke it all down or see all of these patch notes for yourself, I'll include links to everything down in the video description and pinned comment. Just check down there, click on the links. It's super easy. Now, before I get into my general impressions on this massive update and overhaul, I did want to say that Arrowhead's CEO, Shams Jorjani, has been active in Discord this morning, as we knew he would be, making it known that they have another patch lined up for the future and that they made significant changes behind the scenes concerning their development routines. I would assume in regards to stability, performance, and not introducing more issues into the game each time we get an update, which increases the ever-mounting tech debt. Jorjani also confirmed that we are not getting a new war bond this month, as instead the studio is focusing on getting the game quality up. as it should. He also mentioned that after today's patch, our PC game file size has been reduced by 9 gigs, but they won't make a significant change there until they can figure out a plan for the mechanical hard drives. There were also reports that players were still full hard locking on PC even after today's patch, to which 𝗲𝗏𝗯𝗍 did reply, that's a deeper issue still being worked on. So again, that problem is not addressed anywhere here in this patch, at least not from their published patch notes. And I see a ton of comments on my videos asking, is it safe to play on PC yet? You're going to have to make that call. It worked okay for me today. I'll get into that in just a moment, but I know some of you have been experiencing full hard lockups out there, and there's nothing here for that. And finally, 𝗲𝗏𝗯𝗍 did say that this performance push is going to take many more months of work, and that they are looking into Game Guard as well. Okay, so what's the verdict on today's update? Well, overall, it's not bad. Many of those weapon balance changes are going to sit well with the community, along with the general reductions to many of the game's most hated enemies. Personally, I'm not a big fan of drag, but maybe that's just me. But what I did want to say is that on face value, when you look at many of the light armor pen weapons, they received both a base damage boost and durable damage buff as well. But on the flip side, many of the enemies that feature durable body parts also received a boost to their durability. Now, it's going to require more testing, but at least on paper, it sounds like this is a net zero effect for the light armor pen weapons that received those boosts. However, as I'm someone that frequently uses lap weapons, we know to aim for the weak points, where the base damage increase will show up from today's patch. And for those heavier enemies or durable body parts, we also know that switching to something else designed to handle that enemy type is normally the right move. I guess what I'm saying here is, why would Arrowhead give light armor pen weapons more durable damage, but then buff the durability of the targets you want to shoot that weapon at? Unless the point of the changes was to reaffirm that you simply don't shoot lap weapons at certain regions or specific enemies? Question mark? Now, I know the million-dollar question in many of your minds is, what about the performance? Well, it was better. Now, my rig is running on Windows 10 and a 4090 GPU, and I did not crash. But I did see some significant frame drops when large ordnance went off around me like a solo silo missile, or, even at extraction when large gloom clouds and explosives were going off all around us. And when I say large frame drops, I'm talking from playing at close to 60 FPS in 4K all the way down into the low 20s, which is jarring to say the least. Now, the further we made it into our missions on Astanu, also, the more frequent the sound skips and stutters became. But again, at least for me, no hard locks, no freezes either, with only the wild FPS fluctuations and sound stutters remaining to fix. I know we've still got a ton of testing to do with all of these weapon and enemy changes, and it's probably going to be next week, maybe longer, before the full effects of what Arrowhead has done here can be fully logged and documented. But at least for now, we've got a basic idea of what they did. Now, if you have any questions at all, feel free to drop a comment here in the comment section or even over in my Discord server, and I will, of course, do my best to respond. If you found the video helpful, please consider hitting subscribe and ringing the notifications bell to receive all my future upload alerts. Thank you to all of our current channel members and, of course, your awesome support. Please hit join on my YouTube homepage if you're interested in helping out, as we have tiers and perks for all levels. And until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer signing off.